Five Flux on top of that, like, really pulling my leg right now. Just calm it down for a second. So Pioneer did good, is what was sent their way, but it's Five Flux and MABILE. It was really strange because
MABILE came in, and Fireflux came in, and then Nova for China all of a sudden appeared and just started taking them out as well.
Those teams with not even playing PUBG Mobile coming in. Yeah.
Nobody wanted you.
Faker was there. Wow.
It was insane. It was
Old
crazy.
Cloud9 squad came out of nowhere. Beowulf out of retirement.
There you go.
Doing a SWAT team.
Oh, he's back in. You know.
Stop them. Stop Max right now. Yeah, it was great.
It's tough times, but I mean, Pioneer, they've been able to show, I'd say, an okay amount of work today. But I mean, defending against those many teams and those many caliber of teams is not easy whatsoever.
Yeah, it's always going to be tough, right? It's just going to be pinched between multiple teams. They try to eke their way out of it, but just you're on top of Church. If you start leaving, the teams have the high ground position. It's done.
The hilarious thing about it all is that Pioneer put up a really good fight.
It was good,
It
right?
was a really, They really held on very strongly, but there's no way you come out of any of that unscathed, never mind completely unwounded.
It's a roller coaster of emotions, like, what? Oh,
There's no way.
What? Oh, no.
Well, I mean, they definitely won't come out on top if Colors didn't predict them to win.
Correct.
If he did, they probably would have won that fight.
Agreed.
I blame you.
Sorry.
You're not really sorry, though.
No.
Let's take a look, though. Actually, no, let's not take a look yet. Gentlemen, who's your MVP of the day?
I know.
I'm going to go first so I can get a correct prediction. I'm going with Moneyken.
Yeah, Moneyken.
Moneyken?
It has to be.
Yeah.
All right. Who's our MVP of the day? Remember, at the end of the entire event, the MVP from all 4 days will get themselves $2,000.
Hey.
Moneyken, he's 19 eliminations. I mean, he was leading the table in elims. I think at the end of the day as well, but then again, S2G was still alive at the end.
Yeah, I think before this game, he was still the top fragger of the entire tournament, right? The fact that he caught up to players like Fireflux, Kelsey from S2G is mental. These stats are huge.
4,000 damage across 6 games. I mean, he did 1,271, I think it was, on the Sandhawk.
The Sandhawk match, yeah.
So, I mean, that as an offset is insane, because Sandhawk is just not a battleground where you get 1,271 damage.
He had 2 matches where he got over 1,000, like,
yes.
one that was close to 1,500, I think, even. So he had a fantastic day. It's hard to, like, compete with that.
I mean, it's keeping Codex in the running. They still have a bit to go here, but with plays like this out of him, if he can replicate this tomorrow, we very well could see Codex breaching top 3, but they have to continue this performance.
I mean, to get the ball rolling for them, he was instrumental in denying Wildcats their breach on towards the compound on the Erangel win that they got. So that it is enough to be like, okay, yeah, I see what you're bringing, I see what you're cooking with, and from there, just didn't let up, really didn't let up.
And even that last Erangel we had today, where it was TJB getting himself the win, he just made a mess of all the teams around him. He solo's like, I'm going down, but with a bang, right?
Yeah.
He just got so many more eliminations on the board. This guy,
messed up your prediction.
Money can, but even as a solo, this guy can do some real big damage down it. It worked out once again. He is a scary player.
But it does worry me though. Again, in the past, not to add a little asterisk to this, he was great on day 1 in Western Europe, but when it went to the rest of the days, he went completely downhill. He was like a roller coaster that only has 1 drop, you know? He starts at the peak and then he just disappears off the face of the planet, which I think on a roller coaster, you wouldn't want to do that. It's not a very fun roller coaster, but can he replicate it tomorrow? If he can, Codex, top 3, yes, no?
It's going to be hard. You said at the start of the day, you know, could we pick our top 3? I still think, thinking about it overall, Fireflux, HVVP, MABILE. I don't know how those 3, if they keep things up, get dethroned.
Max?
I have to mirror that. I think that those are the 3 teams currently that are competing for that position. Even if S2G have a good day, they already made it to PMGC, so like, who can really compete? There are some teams, but no one's been able to so far have a good day and another good day back to back so far, and you need to be able to convert these good days like Codex if they want to compete. So I would say those are currently the 3 main competitors for that spot.
Well, we'll get into our overalls in a second, but before we get there, let's take a quick little recap of who won each match today, because obviously we had another 6 matches, and we had a couple of new winners that we have yet to see before. For instance, starting things off, Ozorox coming through big here with 10 eliminations, but HVVP, I think that was a stand-up match for me today. That and obviously Erangel, the 3rd match, 20 elims out of HVVP. This team who was getting good placements, not so great eliminations, no chicken dinners, and then bam, they hit us with this, and they hit the lobby hard.
We were talking about it all the time, right, Kalaris? You said there's going to be a point where HVVP are going to get that win, and it's going to be massive, and it's going to impact the entire lobby, and it happened on match 2 there, so that was the game that put them back in the racing, right, for the top 3, and this is a team that now we know can close off games if they do that tomorrow. It's hard to predict who's going to be up there. We got on like the 3 main ones that you already thought, but there's a chance one of those 3 falls off and another team just barely below them just overtake them at the end.
Well, barely below them. How barely below are the teams? It's easy for me to say.
Nice.
If you take a look
Nice.
at our overalls
Yes.
and see how close it is in the running here for a top 3. Remember, top 3 get into PMGC. First place, 40,000 bucks in their pocket. We can see your 182 points here in the lead. I want to turn my head to see because I didn't catch who it was in time. It is Fireflux, HVP, and Malbills, but Alzarox 161, Unicorns Love 160, S2G 155, even Code. Actually, everyone here in top 8, I feel like still can breach top 3.
Yeah, I agree. Whether or not they do is questionable, but the point is that it's still doable here. For when you look at Unicorns of Love, again, if they get themselves into late game situations, I think that they can make that top 3. Ozorox likewise. I think that the first position that they got themselves in, yeah, okay, but they're still capable, especially when we saw them do the send through to Miramar. So yeah, we'll see.
And as you mentioned already, right, Jason, is that roller coaster for Codex. If they cannot follow up the results of today, I think that very early on in the first maybe 3 matches of tomorrow, if they do not replicate it, same for not only them, but also Pioneer, if they don't have a good start of the day, they're already potentially out of the race for PMGC. So it's tough. These teams need to be great out of the gates instantly tomorrow. Otherwise, it's tough. And that's a lot of red arrows. God damn.
Yeah. Well, Dennis Bank Wildcats with that victory, they could put them kind of in the running. I mean, it's 145, I believe, to 136, so behind by about 9 points. So they do have a realm of possibility to qualify, but it would take a very big day tomorrow. However, teams like Virtus Pro, I don't want to say they're out of the running because I have so much respect for this team, but it's starting to feel like it.
It does, doesn't it? Especially since we've seen some really good stuff from them.
Oh yeah.
So far throughout the 3 days, but because you have to have seen the chicken dinners come through from them. But in some of the other games, they've looked a little bit slow. Even this last game, especially, I do feel like their movement down towards south was just a little bit slow. Like, how are you going to be able to get yourself the chicken dinner or something if it's as urgent as being in the bottom side of this table? If you're not being urgent yourself in the game.
Yeah, and if you have 2 chicken dinners and you're that low on the rankings, your highs are very high, your lows are unfortunately very low, and that's what we've seen most of the tournament so far. So is there really a chance in that position? Unfortunately, I don't really think so. There could be a big change. It's still 6 matches, like 6 matches. If you have, I don't know, a performance like Madballs, 5 wins in 6 chicken dinners. Sorry.
Or like Alpha 7 yesterday in Americas.
Yeah, if they get something similar to that, it could happen.
Podium.
There is a slight chance, but it's just, it's a miracle at this point that we need to see from them.
It's going to be tough, but you know what, gentlemen? It is possible. It's just going to depend on how the matches go tomorrow. Not many matches left to go for any of these teams, for any of their chances to get into our top 3. But for you guys at home, we want to hear what you guys have to say here about the show. There'll be a link posted over on YouTube. Make sure you guys click that. Go check out the survey, because if you do, Maxman might surpass Kalaris in predictions. And for the first time ever in PUBG Mobile history, Max might be our victor.
I thought you were going to shave my eyebrows. I was expecting you to.
Oh, no.
It's just the default answer now.
We're going to shave Kalaris' beard because I think that's more valuable to him than his eyebrows.
Nobody wants to see a 34-year-old man look 15 years old, all right? Nobody wants to see
I want
that.
to see the double chin. I want to see it.
That's not bad.
Oh, okay, you hit real hard with that one.
It's terrible. Nobody wants to see the baby face. It's so bad.
Actually, we do have some pictures of that. Maybe we can work with that. Matt, if you're out there, you know what to do. But thank you guys again for tuning in. That's going to round out our 3rd day here of the PUBG Mobile Pro League European Championship. There's 1 day left. 6 chances here for 3 teams to make it into PMGC. You're going to find out tomorrow who it's going to be, so make sure you tune in.
cover by all the other teams. I'm dropping my cards. By all other teams around them. So it was really the perfect moment for them to make the move.
Exactly. I mean, this is the moments why I'm sad that we don't have the teleadministration back on board, because you could really have some fun breaking those moments down and just seeing the speed at which they execute on those big calls, because they just take a few seconds more to do that. Another team's in that position, and then they just maybe lose players. They lose the edge to actually get a win.
Yeah.
They do it back to back. It's a team that has made changes in the second day, and if they keep it up, a team that can also be in that top.
And of course, they got a back-to-back on Sandhawk. The Sandhawk one to me was less impressive. They had a decent compound, and they worked with it really nicely. That's great. But again, when you see these kinds of moves on an Erangel, it really does speak to the distinct timing and map knowledge that a team has. And for a New World to be able to get that, whilst not exactly being the name that you all think about when you think about the Turkish region, is impressive. And again, shows the depths of the region.
I mean, they came in 7th place when it came to PMPL Turkey in the finals as well, so it's kind of showing the depth of talent that Turkey has. That any team at any given day could step up here and be towards the top. I mean, you look at Besiktas, 2nd place in the finals, not doing too well at the moment, though they did have a better day yesterday. And on that note of that bowl, by the way, you're talking about, I wanted to jump back to that really quickly. Do you think that's just an understanding of the map that they have, that they realize no teams can really peek us, even though we're technically in a vulnerable spot if one team did peek the lip, but because there's so many other teams around us, we know we're going to be safe?
It's twofold. They were in a position that was quite sketchy, so they had to make a move. And where do they go? They go to what is technically the best place at the right time. And I think they also understood that, yes, all these other teams would have had to have made themselves visible and present, known to the other teams around them, if they were going to try and sit there.
Well, another team able to step up massively from yesterday, well, from the first day to the second day. All the days are blended together for me. It's Virtus Pro, who they themselves also got 2 chicken dinners as well. So we're going to dive into their stats between the 2 days. If they've, Old Boy in particular, in the team, able to help them really step up here and really over doubling their amount of eliminations between days. That's amazing.
I'm going to say the stats right there. The percentage increase is 40%, right?
At least 50% more eliminations and 40% worth of extra assists there, Max.
Yeah, and more than 100% extra eliminations here coming on board. Wow, absolutely.
I didn't know we had 2 Johns on the desk.
I had to do the numbers like 2 days beforehand, okay? Yeah. I need to make sure they were good.
And it's me.
But definitely Virtus Pro, a team that also needed that big increase we saw from HVVP, but Virtus Pro, the difference is they have been able to actually convert those wins. Outside the wins, not too many points came in, which is why I think they're currently in 7th position in the rankings. They've not been able to actually get those consistent points in, but a team that has been willing to speed up the process, mainly that Miramar match. The amount of control they took, I mean, is mainly Fireflux should have been in that position, but Fireflux gives it up and they just like, oh, that position's open, instantly send it there and try and close off the win. So they were super decisive on a game-winning position to then get the chicken dinner.
There were so many moves between Fireflux and Virtus Pro. Like the fact that Soulcave for a while was kind of the anchor for Fireflux, and then he moves back, and then Chulika actually moves across the road to try and take that position, knowing that eventually Fireflux will have to come back there. So they kind of created an anchor point for Virtus Pro to then hold off one of the biggest teams in the lobby, let's be real about this, with Fireflux, and then be able to get the win from that. Again, it was busy in the north. That helps Virtus Pro a lot, but holding off Fireflux was extremely important on that Miramar game.
I mean, making correct decisions, I think, is very easy to do when you have a player like Oldboy on the team who's been here since basically the beginning of PUBG Mobile Esports under so many different banners, played in so many international tournaments. And we've talked about, at least in the Turkish scene, having like footballs kind of break up actually kind of helped the scene in general, because you had all these strong players go to different teams, build up new talent, and to help the scene overall improve. Yeah,
I mean, we saw that was also Class Digital Athletics. You know, they split away. Then you got like Sales picking up a lot of players with S2G that have been just doing fantastic in all of this year, actually. And they're also making it to PMGC, right? They're already qualified through PMPL Turkey itself. So, yeah, I mean, I think we said this many times already in day 1 and day 2. All the Turkish guys playing in Turkey, they're homies, right? They're bros. Doesn't matter what team you're creating. It might not work out, but if they have that strong synergy and that just coercion in general, it'll work out in the end.
Okay, well, if we talk about team play, that's obviously very important. But individual play is big as well, Max. And you wanted to look at actually one player in particular today. Why is it this man?
Because it's Kelsey. And I could just stop right there, because Kelsey is one of my favorite players of Turkey. He's been improving so much.
Your crypto fans hear that.
Crypto's also really good, but we're focusing on Turkey, okay? Don't get him cancelled just yet, okay? I still want to stick around for a bit. But he has been definitely one of the players I would believe has improved the most in the past year to a year and a half in the Turkish region, mainly because he's been playing with players in the past such as Timber and especially Silas that played in PMGC, and Kelsey has just been such an absolute strength on his lonesome. And despite no chicken dinners, he is currently the MVP of these last 2 days combined, so he's currently racing for that extra 2K on the board.
Again, we have to come back to it. It scares you, the idea year if they do start putting chicken dinners on
Exactly.
the board. And also watching him through the past 2 days as well, I mean, and even in the Turkish region, it shows that he just has an extreme affinity for the game beyond just, you know, mechanical skill, beyond map knowledge and things like that. The kid's a prodigy. Like, even in off-meta setups, off-meta loadouts and things like that, he's still able to frag out, get those eliminations. So it's no surprise why he's at the top.
Well, I will say this, and I hate to be the bearer potentially of bad news or be the glass is half empty kind of guy, but we've seen this happen before in Turkey. We've seen Frozen. Everyone's talking about him being a prodigy, being one of the best players in the scene, potentially in the world. And then we saw him get to these international stages, he kind of crumbled. Now the upside for Kelsey is international stage, he's not crumbling, but I'm curious, is this kind of performance he can maintain over the course of, well, potentially with PMGC because they're in, but then next year as well?
I would say the main issue, for example, for Frozen is when you look at the entirety of the team. Sure, you had Dokkan Mission with him, but Frozen was a standout compared to the rest of the team. Sure, Kelsey is a standout for his team, but Silas is there to support the team. HamCG is like his double ganger to try and actually go for the forefront engages. He is serving as a duo fragging power, right? So if he was a solo, potentially it would be a lot harder for them to maintain it, but the fact it's a team-wide effort for the side of SGG makes it a lot easier for him.
That's fair, right? Because we did say the same thing about like Icy for Unicorns of Love. He really stood up for his team, but necessarily didn't have the support he needed to have everyone else play well. And then we see him kind of fall off this season and Crypto kind of step into that role. So it kind of makes sense. But you know what? I am curious to see, I guess, in general, what Turkey has to offer next year, because we're just seeing so many good players develop, so many new teams be created. It is ridiculous how strong this region is in particular. But you know what? We got to move on from the show here because the first match is almost ready to go, and we'll get the schedule up on the screen for you guys to see what's all going down today. 3 Erangels, 2 Miramars, 1 Sandhawk. It's going to be the exact same way tomorrow. It's the exact same way 2 days ago. And that's how it's going to be. This is the lay of the land here for all these teams to try to get top 3.
I'm wondering, when you take a look at this as well, will we see more Turkish teams get victories on the board? Yesterday, it was actually West Europe heavy. Let's be real about it. But I do think that the time of Turkey is now. We will see SGG get victories. I think we'll see even Fireflux have a little bit of a bounce back, even though they're still #1. And yesterday wasn't exactly as amazing as the first day. But
still first.
They're still first. They're still really good. Yeah, I think we'll see more Turkish wins on the board today.
Well, I want to actually see if we're going to have new teams step up yet again. Every day it's been a different team we've been talking about. There's still 2 days left to go, and there's still a lot of opportunities for some teams to catch up because this point gap isn't too steep for any of these teams. Every team, I think, I'll say that. I'll commit to it. Every team, I think, has the opportunity to still break through in the top 3. It's just about whether or not you can start putting up the games because you're running out of time. You can't have bad matches to continue to happen. And if you're currently in top 3, you have to maintain a level of performance if you want to hold on to that spot.
Yeah. I just looked at the leaderboards beforehand. I think it's Besiktas and TJB currently. I think it's 15th and 16th respectively. Currently, I would say in the worst spot to potentially initiate a comeback. Like, it's actually a pretty significant difference between 14th and 15th. But otherwise, pretty much every team still has a chance. But if you're in the bottom, like the morale maybe of these teams is already crushed, so it's a bit tough.
To be fair, right? Besiktas, they're into PMGC, so they don't have to worry. It's more TJB's side who have played in so many international events. They've been here so many seasons as well. We're going to see if they can blend together and make things work. And speaking of blending together, we have our 2 fantastic casters to cover all the action today. We're going to send on over to John Allen and Blank to bring you match 1. Also, got the survey.
There we go. We're a cocktail or something. I don't quite know what he's getting at there, Blank, but we are going to be blending on in to the background as the game comes through in just a moment. Yeah, but those teams at the bottom of the tables, it is really their time to step up if they have it in them, right? And that's the thing that we've kind of been not really seeing from teams like TJB.
Yeah, I think for TJB, again, at some point they will have a big game. At some point it will happen, but I don't think it's going to be enough to send them up towards that top 3. Surreal Esports with 32 points total. Ooh, it's not looking good for them. And with them losing players on the drop multiple times now, I don't think that is a trend that is going to be stopping anytime soon. Besiktas 12th place at the moment. Certainly possible to send themselves up towards the top of the standings, but very, very difficult. It would be a case of having one hell of a gargantuan day here and grabbing a ton of chicken dinners, a ton of points total to put themselves even in the running. And I think that when you're looking at a lobby like this, John, where it is just filled with fantastic teams, amazing players from around this region, I don't think it's likely that you can bank on getting that many chicken dinners in one day.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Certainly isn't. PMGC's a weight on the minds of the entire lobby at the moment. New Worlds with a cracking run towards the top in yesterday's games, though. I mean, they put numbers up on the board that I don't think we've really expected coming through from them. They were not really in the conversation, honestly, in terms of one of the teams that we were looking at to potentially qualify into the top 3, right? This is a team that qualified in 7th place out of the Turkish regionals in the finals. They finished in the league stages. They were in 7th as well. This is not a team that you kind of expect to be in a situation like this amongst the top, but they really did show us yesterday that they have got some chops to them.
100%. I think that you look at them, though, and you somewhat wonder how much of yesterday was due to some of the circles, specifically the one that headed up towards the north side of Stalba. I mean, that compound just towards that south side of the mountain itself was just so strong for so long. And I think Kalaris put it best in the sense of it was one of the only positions in that circle where you could get some good scouting done in the first place, being able to look down towards a lot of the locations inside that circle and then being able to kind of cherry pick the best one for yourself. So for New Worlds, kind of lucky, kind of well played at the same time, though, because they made that move at the right moment during that game. But then you look towards the end of the day where they had 3 coming out of the circle on towards Miramar and getting 3v2'd by Unicorns of Love is not a good feeling whatsoever. But at that point, they were fairly burnt out, and there was a lot of thorns in their side coming out from that compound to try and challenge versus Unicorns of Love. We said, though, John, at the end of yesterday, and I think we'll bring it up right now, that Unicorns of Love had to have a big game at that final game on Miramar to put themselves back into the running towards the top side of the tables, and that was a big chicken dinner. It's one that there was very much needed at the time. I think it was a finish with 27 points total, which sends them up to 106 points, which is very much in range of overtaking anyone up towards 3rd place at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. There is currently, I would say, about 6 to 7, maybe even 8 teams with a chance of snagging that 3rd spot, or they're all fighting against each other for it, and the chance to potentially find a 2nd spot as well. Mad Bulls not out of the woods just yet. Fireflux may be out of reach for some of them, but Mad Bulls are on that chase as well to take the 40k, because you've got to remember there is also that prize at the top, 40 grand check that you're not going to be ignoring, especially if you're a team like Fireflux who didn't have the best performances yesterday. They need to get back to form.
100%, and the prize pool's only going to get bigger from here on out, depending where you can reach, how far up in the tournament scale that you can head towards from this championship. Remember, we do have 3 PMGC places available for these teams, and not one of the 2 teams that are currently in this tournament already have placed in towards PMGC are in the top 3, meaning that there's a little bit less leeway for these teams at the moment, so they're going to have to really battle it out for those top 3 positions. S2G, I wanted to say, you know, maybe they're just having fun with it during this tournament. You know, you look at their current results and they're set at 42 placement points. One of the lowest in this bracket. I think the 2nd lowest to that is 51 from Unicorns of Love, but 66 eliminations, which pales a lot of these other teams all the way down into 8th place and all the way up to even 2nd place with Mad Bulls with only 55. I think the only team they rival currently is Fireflux with 70. And I think, in a way, that kind of made me feel maybe they're enjoying themselves this tournament, getting a bit more practice in, trying to take fights with a lot of these teams they might be seeing in PMGC. But it also is worrying, right? Because you come into this tournament and you're looking, as you say, John, for that check.